Alright, Sharks. Are you tired of content that has too much product placement but still support the right of corporations to monetize their products to death? We here at Ad Agency from the 1940s bring you advertisements. Gone are the days of characters name-dropping products and using them on screen, as our innovative technology allows networks to play recorded advertisements before and after shows. Couldn't they do both? Alright, it's been a while since my last video. That one was the byproduct of watching too much TV, and I've really learned nothing since then. I cannot stop noticing product placement in movies and TV. It's gotten to the point where I see it just about every time I sit down and watch something. Now, I'm not just talking about people using iPhones on screen. It's 2022, there's really only 2 people that sell phones in this country, so I'm not talking about things like that. I'm talking about placements so jarring that it feels like they moved the entire set out of the way to bring in a different one to get the perfect shot of these products. Is it really too much to ask to want less things to be monetized? Does everything really have to be? Can we not just find other ways to monetize things? I really wish we could just make more content without being disrupted. Let's do that. Before I jump into this, I want to give 2 thank yous. First one to productplacementblog.com. It's a really simple but really helpful website that someone is maintaining. They're going through and watching TV shows and movies and cataloging every product placement instance that they see. I don't know how this person has time for this or the patience, but it was really super helpful. And then I also just need to shout out the original inspiration for this video. If you saw my last one, Chicago Med. They're one of the kings of product placement today, in my opinion, so shout out to them for inspiring this one. So let's do a little warm-up exercise. Remember for years when the James Bond movies tried to get people to buy Sony products? You might not have noticed, but if you did, it was not subtle at all. Cameras, phones, laptops, everything. What's fun to me about this one is that Sony owns Columbia, and Columbia is the studio that made all the recent Bond films with Daniel Craig. Usually you see brands pay for screen time, and they may have in this case, but it really just seems like the parent company pushed their products into their subsidiaries' movies, and I'm curious if you go back and look at other Columbia properties, how much this really happens. How about this? Do you remember every music video in the 2000s being littered with products? They were everywhere. All we wanted from VH1 was to watch the 20 songs that fit on our iPods at the time, but instead we got musical ads, bookended by more actual ads. Awesome. Watching videos recently, this one feels a little bit less egregious than it used to be, but it definitely still happens. It's not an old thing. How about a more recent offender that many of you probably saw? If you've seen this movie, you already know it's an absolute marathon of product placement, and that's not to mention that the movie is just straight up bad. The writing is bad, the story makes no sense, the acting is bad, and on top of all that, you're supposed to just sit there and take all the product placement the entire time. From beginning to end, we get to see J-Lo go across town, go to her apartment, use and verbally name drop tons of brands like Vitamix, Coach, and Louboutin. This movie's existence would honestly make more sense if they came out and admitted that it was a trick to get people to watch 2 hours of billable product placement time. But hey, maybe they made enough money off of it to make up for the fact that no one's paying for Peacock. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not picking on good shows that do this necessarily, like Mare of Easttown. My beef is really with shows that allow product placement to get in the way of the plot and the story and the writing and interrupt it sometimes. But I do find it interesting in Mare of Easttown's case that even though they might not have tried to, from what I can tell, they still created a show that feels a little bit sponsored. Now, like I said, from what I can tell, nothing in this show is a paid placement, but the beer is everywhere. Every chance they get, people are drinking Rolling Rock. At home, at a bar, at a friend's house. Now, granted, Kate Winslet's mom is always drinking cocktails at home, so it definitely feels more like a narrative choice than it does a choice to market a brand. So again, I give them a pass for having characters drinking Rolling Rock or other Eastern beers in every scene because Pennsylvania setting kind of explains it away a little bit. Now, what happens when the placement's not only trying to economically manipulate you, but it also gets in the way of the writing? Last year, the Wall Street Journal did a great piece about Apple TV Plus's heavy product placement in its shows. I'll link to that video below in the description. And it's really interesting because Apple is so precise with their product placement that once you read this and understand what they're doing, it can kind of ruin some of the shows for you. In the Wall Street Journal video, they found 2 key things to be generally true in most cases. First being likable and main characters are generally most closely associated with the products. And at the same time, villains tend to be visually kept away from or kept from using the products at all. They even go so far as to be sure that the villain in Defending Jacob uses an Android phone. If you think about it too hard, it can ruin things that you're watching, but once you know that they're doing it, how can you not think about it? I really hope this practice of being this calculated isn't super widespread, but if Apple's doing it, it probably is. And I find it hard to believe that in this day and age, no one else is doing that. Now, I had to save the best for last. This show is the product placement champion of the world. Undisputed. Now, if you haven't seen it, A Million Little Things came out in 2018 at the height of popularity for This Is Us, really trying to capitalize for ABC at the time on This Is Us's kind of new genre of family dramedy. And while I do enjoy it, I enjoy the story, I enjoy the writing, it really does borrow a lot from This Is Us. And I've kind of jokingly taken to calling it This Is We. So like I already said, this is the worst offending show when it comes to product placement on TV. And when I talk about product placement blocking the shot and getting in the way of the story and interrupting it, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You sat down to watch a show, understanding there might be commercials if you're watching it on cable, but when it's happening inside the show, your brain, I don't know the science behind this, but it feels like your brain stops and just reacts like you're watching a commercial, and you either lose focus, stop paying attention, or whatever. Good product placement needs to be subconscious. It needs to trick your brain into seeing things without consciously realizing them and then wanting to buy them later for one reason or another. Honestly, at a certain point, I would worry if I was running this show that we run too much product placement, we turn too many viewers off, and the product placement slots become less valuable to sell. We actually make less money in the end. I really don't think it's a coincidence that I can't name another show that does it this badly, and I watch a lot of TV, like I said, so I feel like it's important for shows and people in this industry to not get carried away. Alright, since this one is the worst, I am going to show you some clips so you believe me. So most of the time, I'm an average unwitting consumer. You can market things to me relentlessly, and as long as you're kind of sneaky about it, I'll probably fall for it, like most people. But as soon as you say a product name out loud, most people are going to notice. So what happens when you visually and verbally demonstrate a product fully in the frame in the middle of the show?
While I'm thinking about it, Alexa, put a shaving brush on the shopping list.
I've added a shaving brush to your shopping list.
We need more lighting. It's Alexa, turn up the lights.
Okay.
Take the ABC logo off the screen and show this to someone who doesn't know the show and see if they can actually tell you it's not a commercial. I don't think they could. Last season, Target threw their hats into the ring. They wanted to make sure their bags were paraded all over the screen and sat down on people's counters with perfect framing. This particular one has to be the most expensive placement they've sold. In this episode, the bags stay on screen for several minutes, and it really seems like they saturated the hell out of them in post to make them look like the only thing you can see. They even stand here in this kitchen and go so far as to have a full conversation about how much they love using the Target app and picking up their groceries without contact.
Someone here is a big fan of the contactless drive-up.
Yeah, ordered on the app. Just popped the trunk when we got there. Didn't have to be near anyone.
Sounds like your dream come true.
Yeah, it kind of is, actually.
Now, you might have thought Amazon and Target's placements on this show were pretty bad, and they are, but the worst is for Lexus. Lexus has been around for every season of this show. I think there's 4 now, and even though their product placement isn't the most offensive, it's definitely the longest running. It really feels like there's been Lexus placement in every episode since the pilot. It's honestly more of a partnership. They've even gone so far as to run sponsored Lexus tweets in real life. I really feel like there's a Lexus employee sitting in the writer's room. In an extremely meta and self-aware instance of product placement, in Season 2, Rome, one of the characters, is hired to film and direct a commercial for Lexus. This one feels really on the nose. This season, one of the main characters, Maggie, is given a whole Lexus as a reward at work. But no, they don't stop there. They make sure to stop, frame it up beautifully, crank up the colors on it, and make sure to show you the remote start function on her phone. Real nice. And actually, believe it or not, but at this point I think you believe me, that's not even the first time they've demonstrated remote start on screen in an episode. In Season 3, Rome does it from his Apple Watch in a grocery store parking lot. This is exactly what I'm talking about when the product placement comes on screen and literally stops what's happening. It's altering the writing. The story is literally different than it would have been without it. Now, will this video serve as a meditation and a reflection for me? It probably should. If nothing else, I hope it makes me and other people watching this more aware of it, and maybe they'll get less blatant with it over time, but probably not. Amazon's been putting ads on its Kindle lock screens for years, and they're honestly not that disruptive, but it's just another example of monetize everything we possibly can. And honestly, give it a couple years, maybe people, as they start reading more, maybe we'll start seeing authors be paid to put products in books. I can totally see Apple paying someone to write iPhone into a book. So I'm not sure I really have anything productive to contribute in terms of alternatives or suggestions or ideas for these companies, but I really do think that rampant product placement like we talked about today really needs to be toned down and curbed. And honestly, you know what? Here's an idea. If they really wanted to, they could promote small businesses with these product placements. They could sacrifice some of the corporate partnerships, and a show like A Million Little Things that's based in Boston could spotlight Boston-based small businesses. That would not be hard. They would just lose a little money. But if you watch cable, you see all these ads from different companies and networks trying to get you to support small businesses. Why don't they have to? Why don't we ever expect them to put their money where their mouth is? Let me know in the comments. Do you think this is going to keep getting worse? I kind of do. Do you have other examples of really shameless, bad, terrible product placement? Love to hear it. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Share it with a friend if you can. Give it a like. Whatever else you want to do. It really helps me out. All of it helps me out. So, really appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys in the next one, and hopefully it won't take 6 months. Hi, Sharks. Are you tired of content